SpaceX gears up to launch NASA satellite to Jupiter moon 628 million km away. SpaceX is gearing up to launch NASA's Europa Clipper mission to the icy moon later this week after it encapsulated the satellite into the Falcon Heavy rocket's payload earlier this week. The firm shared images of the Clipper as it was being enclosed inside the fairing earlier this week, yesterday, and added that the mission is currently slated to take off next week. SpaceX's update is the first for the Clipper mission after another Falcon 9 second stage anomaly last week following a crewed launch for NASA, which led to the suspension of Falcon launches pending investigation. SpaceX prepares Europa Clipper satellite ahead of launch to Jupiter's icy moon next week. The Europa Clipper mission will be the first interplanetary mission for SpaceX this year. NASA has spent years preparing for the launch, which will send an observation satellite to the icy Jupiterian moon. SpaceX was awarded the contract in 2021, after NASA switched the mission's rocket from the Space Launch System, SLS, to the Falcon Heavy. The SLS, which is more powerful than SpaceX's rocket, would have allowed Clipper to reach Europa faster, but high launch costs and concerns about the rocket's availability drove the decision to switch the launch vehicle. SpaceX's update yesterday evening shared that teams had encapsulated Clipper inside the Falcon Heavy's payload fairing earlier this week. It was the first time that the firm publicly commented on the Clipper launch after an earlier Falcon 9 second stage anomaly that made the rocket miss its intended landing spot in the ocean. The Falcon 9 second stage had experienced another anomaly before, which took place while the rocket was on its way to inject a batch of Starlink satellites into their target orbit. Since payloads like the Europa Clipper satellite require support systems, fairing encapsulation often signals an intent to launch. While after the Falcon 9 second stage anomaly SpaceX had confirmed that future launches were suspended, it appears that the issue might be resolved before the firm launches Clipper. NASA missions are high-priority launches, and given the considerable resources spent by the space agency to develop Clipper, it will be working closely with SpaceX to ensure that no anomalies take place on the Clipper launch. However, SpaceX has yet to share any details of potential Starlink launches. In between the Falcon 9 suspensions and groundings in the latter half of 2024, the firm has kept up with a rapid Starlink launch cadence. These have focused on direct-to-cell satellites that enable smartphones to access the Starlink service. They signal SpaceX's intent to rapidly build a unique capability into its constellation before competitors, primarily the Amazon-backed Kuiper, launch their own satellites. The Europa Clipper is slated to launch Thursday next week. Initial plans had speculated that the Falcon Heavy would use an additional solid rocket booster to increase its thrust, but as of now this appears unlikely. After payload encapsulation, SpaceX generally mates the second stage with the first stage before transporting it to the launch site.